Don becomes the fourth named storm of this Atlantic hurricane season. So a new storm named to the list, and it is a subtropical storm named Don. It's at 33.4 degrees north, 47.2 degrees west, which puts it way out over the open waters of the Atlantic between Bermuda and the Azores. 45 miles per hour according to the National Hurricane Center right now. We're slightly under that of 40 on our estimates. Moving north-northwest at 9 miles per hour, that's 14 kilometers per hour as of 3 p.m. Azores time this July 14th. The fourth named storm of the season, but fifth designated number, and it is a subtropical storm, not tropical at this stage. So it's got a rather broad wind field, particularly on the eastern side, with the tropical storm force winds extending out up to 180 nautical miles on the southeastern quadrant. It's far away from any land areas, 1573 kilometers from Flores on the Azores. These are all on the Azores actually. 1597 from Corvo, 1750 from Horta, 1770 from Pico, and 2008 kilometers from the largest town, Ponta Delgada. The storm will gradually move towards the north and then swivel round towards the east, and then we expect south, and it could even do an entire loop around itself over the course of the next 7 days. That forecast is not fully set in stone yet, and we'll have to see. So no real primary hazard right now, maybe rip currents later on that could become a hazard when the storm gets closer to the Azores, but it's not extremely powerful, it's not huge, and so land impacts are going to be very minimal, if any at all. Of course, the track could still change and a storm could end up going through the Azores early next week, or later actually in the week. So this is what we expect over the next 7 days or so on our latest forecast spread. Of course, this could change quite a bit, and you can't actually see much going on there because the storm's moving around over the water. There you can see the Azores coming into view Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It passes to the southeast and then it turns back again on the latest forecast, although some ensemble members take it to the east rather than to the west later on, so that becomes a bit of a crossroad point there when we get towards midweek next week. So 40 mile per hour winds, National Hurricane Center have just gone down to 45 from 50 earlier on. ADT still running with 50 miles per hour, and Ascat Pass earlier this morning had around 60 miles per hour at the beginning of this storm's life, but suffice to say it is definitely weakening at this stage and isn't looking that great on satellite imagery, and I expect further weakening will take place soon. Forecast cone, National Hurricane Center quite clearly showing that bend towards the north and then east and then south eventually. No real threat to the Azores, none of the islands are at the moment within the storm's cone. And of course no warnings in effect either. Here's the GFS, what it has in the forecast. As you can see, flirting with tropical storm force winds there. Any of those green areas, that's tropical storm intensity. There's another little ripple moving along there as it starts to turn back towards the west again later, and then maybe turning back towards the northeast at the end of that 7-day period. So this Don could be around for a while, whether it's a tropical storm or a tropical depression or not even tropical at all and remains subtropical. The hybrid between tropical and non-tropical remains to be seen, but something to do with this storm will be around for a good 7 days. Here's the radar reflectivity simulation showing what the storm's structure may look like. It struggles a little bit through the middle part of that sequence. It almost becomes linear and then it starts to get itself going again, and then it spins off towards the west, and some of it's on trails moving off through the Azores there towards the end of that sequence. So there could be a fair amount of rainfall from this storm. It depends just how close it gets to the Azores, but certainly I think we'll be seeing some amount of rain for almost all of the islands. The eastern ones might just get away without rainfall from this storm but that could still change on the forecast. So here's the projection. A lot of rainfall falling earlier on there near the storm's centre, up to 6 inches near the storm's centre. Of course, that's all out at sea. And later on it will go on to reach the Azores. Some rain showers associated with the storm could produce a couple of inches of rainfall. The westernmost islands may get towards 3 inches, but the middle islands there only just getting to maybe half an inch, and the eastern islands hardly anything at all. And there you can see once again near the centre where all of that, well, any convection would be blowing up. There's not much to speak of at the moment. We could look at towards 6 or 7 inches, so significant amounts, but not really along the coast. Sea surface temperatures might tell a story on why this has started off subtropical and not tropical, and that's because those temperatures are lower, around about 25 degrees Celsius where the storm is right now. Subtropical cyclones typically form with temperatures of 23 degrees or more. Tropical storms usually need 26. So it's a bit short of that right now, and as it gradually moves further north it will struggle, and that's because those sea surface temperatures cool even further down to around 22-23 degrees Celsius, and then once it piles back towards the southeast they'll warm up a little bit again, which might lead to a second wind. Well, here's the latest satellite imagery looking straight into the centre of the storm, which is quite clear to see, the low-level centre, and it looks to me as though it's getting a little bit decoupled from the mid-level centre, which is where those colours are, the little bits of convection that are blowing up, and a little bit more off to the eastern side of the storm, and that's where you're going to get those highest amounts of rainfall. Very, very bare on the western side. It's mainly on the eastern side, of course that's where the winds are as well right now, and the centre of the storm does appear, you can see here when we switch to the higher cloud view, you can see that the lower levels are quite different now from the mid-level and high-level clouds there, and it's just starting to run away a little bit to the northwest. I think the storm will rectify itself eventually, but dry air could also be a factor as we look at that imagery there, and it will struggle for a little bit, and then it might get that second chance as it moves back towards the southeast next week.